giving us a quick update on some of, I don't know, the flooding that looks like it's happening in Sydney around the harbor area.
The
like,
dog,
what's going on?
I don't know what he ate. It just flooded downstairs. Wait.
No, let's keep it on. Go ahead.
We'll let Cote talk about anal leakage later.
Jeez. Go on.
So some sort of storm system came across the continent and ran into another one coming in over the water, and they just parked themselves into a ton of water. So it rained for about a week, and rained for about a week, and then we got this notice that the dam was breaching, and they evacuated a whole bunch of neighborhoods around us. We are uphill from the dam by about half a kilometer. So I run down to the dam sometimes. I saw the video, was exciting. The dam did not break. So nobody got, super flooded out, but I think they said several hundred homes have been, flooded, damaged, and the northern beaches area of Sydney. And then all of New South Wales is flooding. And I learned some things about the Australian government this week. Texas government looks a little proactive sometimes.
Really? Like, how's that? That doesn't seem right.
Well, after 10 days of flooding, the prime minister of the country showed up and was like, yeah, I can't really help you guys. He's like, this is a state problem. And then the state guy was like, those state volunteers.
Okay, so it wasn't just I was just looking on Twitter. There was a little bit of warning that it was sort of heavy rains, and then they're like, or did it just burst out? Was it like what is it? I guess the land,
10 days of rain,
the levees have been breached or whatever, overflowing or whatever the right word is. For
all the water levels were high, and the streets were flooding, and all the gutters or drains are backed up, and the dam. They sent out a text message telling people to evacuate, and then you can't rescind an SMS. They're like, wait, we fixed it.
Next time we need to make some sort of DevOps or DevSecOps like silos reference. We can be like, I mean, it's like when the Australian Prime Minister shows up and says that's the state's problem. Am I right? And
he gave an apology like, I'm sorry these things happened to you.
Oh, that's good.
That's nice.
It's like, wait, that's not helpful. It's like the buck is supposed to stop with you, and he's like, I'm sorry things happened to you.
Oh,
man. So I guess it's unfortunate, though. It sounds like it's just like where you are in relation to this dam. So like you're upstream, so it's not an issue, right? And if you're obviously being downstream, it's bad. Man, that sucks. Man, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was sunny yesterday, but we have another week of rain on the forecast. So,
we have the sun here in the Netherlands. It's great. I was just talking with someone who this guy is Greek, but he lived in London for a while, so he kind of knows about lack of sun. But we were just like, whoa, look at this, the sun.
Yeah, so
it was 50 degrees here, Brandon. What are y'all running over there?
Right now it's 68. It's pretty nice. It's kind of cool this week, but it's nice. Although I was gonna say,
kind of reached the equilibrium.
Yeah, but with the same weather.
I was gonna say with Matt, it's like we're coming up on, at least here in the United States, next week is daylight savings. So I just, for everyone, look forward to a couple segments and a couple of episodes where we complain about time zones. Like, I feel like it's, at this point it's an annual tradition. I probably don't have anything new to say about it, but like, although I am in favor, I always enjoy, like, this is the period where I'm like, oh, this is right. We're getting back on the right time. Right. So I'll be happier. But then in the fall, of course, I like to do the segment where is this wrong? Why are we doing this? So it's coming up. And then of course, somehow, Matt, you and I, we get further away, in time. It's unfortunate.
Or closer, depending on how you think.
You go back. That's true. I guess we get further away from podcasting time. I guess.
I don't know.
Anyway. That's how a sphere works, right? Is any point is
like
the same distance to any other point?
Yeah,
if I remember.
But somehow we get 2 hours further. It's like
yeah. Further, but technically we're closer.
Technically we're closer, but somehow it feels like we're further away. I guess would be my thinking.
But yeah, so yeah, the weather. I'm on a hill, so I'm fine. Yeah,
One hill,
I
so fine.
cleaned the yard, emptied the gutters, mucked the drains. It was
It's true.
we're
All
doing well.
weather is local. That's the most
Yes.
important. It's like when you're the house and it's completely iced over and you don't have any electricity, it's a big deal. When your neighbor has electricity, you're like, oh, it's fine. It was kind of nice to have the kids out of school, right? So, same thing with
Yeah.
flooding. If you're upstream, not really a big deal. It's kind of nice. Take some pictures, right?
Is
Downstream,
that-
it's like
is that what-
As long as
is
you
that
still got your power.
That
Yeah.
explains
is.
why I keep hearing about upstream Kubernetes. Is that because that's the good stuff?
As my dog can explain to you, things roll downhill.
That's right.
So you don't want to be downstream Kubernetes.
Don't be
Is that-
downstream.
Is that right?
That's right. That's where the flooding happens. So.
And the dog. stuff.
All right, Coach. You ready to get rolling? I got the normal 5 minutes after
You got 5 past. Okay.
3:05, which is 9:05 for you. I don't know, something for you.
Sounds good.
2 ad breaks this week.
2
Strong DM and
ads.
post late.
Okay. As
Hey,
always,
Brandon, do I need to do a podcast an ad record?
Yeah, you need to do something. I forget which one did you not do? Post light. You need to do post light.
Okay.
I'll send you the thing at some point.
Yeah. One of my. I need to just get off my ass and do that.
It's fine. It's good. We're good. We got Cote and me on this. As long as we have 2 people. I always
Hey,
think you don't want to hear the same person say it too many times.
I know.
So.
This is my only source of income. So.
Although Cote, you put it out. It's funny when you hear Gracely do the strong DM read on Cloud Class. It's like, oh, okay. It's like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it is kind of surreal. So I
I'm gonna
heard you.
spice this up next time.
Yeah, we gotta go. We should. I don't know. At some point, we got to do some live reads. It'd be fun.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, that would be
who has
fun.
the time?
Who has the time? Indeed.
Apparently me, but
Well, you're breaking some news, man. You may not want to. Everyone's watching.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, not everyone knows. So
I'm looking for a job.
all right. Well, there you go. Now you got the news. So
Yeah.
there-
But
all right,
All right,
let's roll,
all right.
Cote. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay.
Hey, what
I
are we
have a
talking
topic.
about? No, I mean,
well, yeah, we got a. Is it a good idea for the U.S. to have a digital currency?
oh geez.
And then if we get through that, like, I want to finally ask. I don't really understand what Snowflake does.
Oh, I did a bunch. I actually did some homework on Snowflake. So
I read a little.
ready.
I read their page that was good, great SEO, and it basically said Snowflake is a database in the cloud and something about share nothing infrastructure. And
Yeah.
So
yeah, we should do that then. That
yeah,
sounds
it's.
like-
I mean, it's like trying to read like what the deal with a car is, and they're like, well, it makes fuel explode.
Oh, wait till you get to the pricing stuff. I think the pricing stuff is the more interesting.
Okay.
got
Yeah. So
stuff
there
on
you
that.
go.
Oh, we got people in the channel wanting to do ad reads for us. What is this?
Okay. That would be nice.
Radio Lab? Come on.
Yeah. All right, Brian. I'll get you. Yeah. We can definitely get some people to do an ad read. Sure.
Yeah.
Love it. I'll send you the scripts. Whoever wants it. Yeah.
Do an ad read for Matt. Please hire me.
Hey.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Use
We
the
could
power
do
of the
it.
podcast.
Listen, we could do. We have a room for 3s, but I tell people so we could find that if that's
Yeah.
what Matt wants. I don't know. That may be a little too personal, but it's up. Leave it to Matt.
I like to think I have a job by then, but
Well, maybe this
Yeah.
would be a better one. Who knows?
All right, get us rolling. Stop eating, Matt. Let's go.
I can't. I spent my time cleaning dog poop instead of eating breakfast.
Right, that's the end of the pre-show. Perfect. Okay. Well, then at least mute yourself while you're chewing.
All right, pizza. Let me finish it off the pizza.
God damn it. One of these days, I tell you. Hope the sponsors
Okay.
watch the YouTube.
Pizza's gone.
All right. Now we're ready. Ready, Cote.
Well, I want to bring together 2 things that I've mentioned recently. One, last episode, you might remember that I talked about discovering Chuck Klosterman. Did I say that right, Brandon?
Yes, you did.
I feel like since you know about sports, you've probably heard him on some sort of sports podcast or something.
Can confirm. Definitely
Okay.
have.
So I discovered him. Great stuff. I read. Well, I should say I listened to. You'd be proud of me, Brandon. His. I think this is maybe a book he's most famous for, is something about like sex, drugs, and Cocoa Puffs or something. And that book was delightful. I think what he pointed out was that. Well, I've got another comment on that, but he pointed out that, like, I think this is still the case, but when it comes to children's cereal, there is always some sort of animal creature who wants to steal it. And I think that is I think that's an incisive observation. And then also, a little heartstring pulling. He pointed out that I think it was maybe after 30 or 40 years, the Trix rabbit still has never had a piece of Trix in its mouth. So
sad.
I think
Yeah.
we should be upset.
He's gonna
about
be
that.
so disappointed because that's kind of gross.
Yeah. And so there was a good there's that book. It's interesting, and I don't want to dwell on this too much more because I was going to get to the second point. Is as someone who writes, as the kids say nowadays, content a lot myself. If you've listened to both of these books back to back, you see where he dusted a lot of stuff off from his old book. Now, I'm not saying that he cut and pasted it, but much like things that I would do when I write stuff, he's sort of like, there's ideas that he's got flowing around over the decades, and he just kind of fleshes them out again, which I think is good. Now, I just have one more piece of commentary, and that is, I think if you've seen that what is it, Pam and Tommy TV show, like if you've seen that, his essay on Pamela Anderson will you'll have a more contemporary understanding of it, that like you're like, yes, this is actually not a good perspective on things. And so it's nice to it's good, you got this bricolage across the decades to kind of like look at stuff. But what I wanted to raise was, so I went back, when I find an author, I like to read all of their books, and it's especially great when they're dead, because then you know when you're going to be done reading the books. But that's fine, right? And so I went back and read his first book, which is basically about heavy metal, he calls it. Now, I guess you got the heavy metal, the hair metal, the speed metal. I don't really know. I was never really into that sort of thing. I think he's a little older than me, and he I'm first of all, I'm trying really hard to read through this book, and if he wasn't such a good writer, I would not give a shit, right? About, because it's a very, very detailed history and lots of commentary about the idea of metal, and so I wanted to ask you two, what even is metal? Like, is this a notion that we in our generation care about, or circle a group, or like what? I just like, I had never really, I always thought it was just like Metallica, and that's metal, and that's it. But like I have learned 13% into this book that I was totally wrong. But what I haven't figured out is what's not metal yet. I think maybe Huey Lewis. That's basically
well,
like.
My son did ask if that was hip hop, so. To me, I mean, what does he say? Like the first metal band is it Black Sabbath?
That does come up. I think there's some other obscure thing.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure there's
that like a Spin magazine columnist would know.
Yeah.
I mean, he does some showing off at some point where he's like, oh, there's this other book, and he like, let me quote the paragraph of bands that he cites, and he's like, oh, but he left out this one, and then he has 2 paragraphs of band names, which is like, good job, buddy. But like, love what you're doing there. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an early one, and then like, I don't know, like Motley Crue. And
well, that's like 15 years later. I mean,
I know. I don't know. I don't. This is my interest in the book, is that I don't really remember.
Oh, okay.
But like,
well, that Motley Crue movie, that was pretty entertaining, but not really high quality. Speaking of Tam and Pommy, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what defines metal. Maybe it's something about the.
I think
maybe he covered that.
But I think Metallica is like a good guidepost. It's sort of like harder, faster, louder than Metallica. Like that's sort of like that's the way I would say it. It's sort of like it's kind of like
Metallica's very metal. I mean,
I think it is, but I think you kind of want to use that and say like what I think when you say heavy metal, you want to say, okay, well, you got Metallica, and then you want to go like harder, faster, louder, right? Like more yelling, like less, like I don't know, more, I guess, vocals that are more like yelling, and it's like, so that's what I would say. I don't,
So that gradient between like rock to metal, that's what we're trying to suss out there.
I think so. I think that's the main.
And so here's what
we need
got
to get
me
Adam
thinking,
Jacob back.
This is what got me going down the path. Is like at some point, I mean, I'd have to go back and reread it, but he basically says like Van Halen is metal, and I'm like, is that
That's
true?
like glam metal. Yeah, that is like right on the line, right?
Like California
hair
Girls
bands,
or
yeah.
whatever. Like I
Oh,
that
no,
just
no, 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 no. Yeah, definitely
that
not
just
that.
seems like I just
Yeah.
thought that was just like rock.
Well, I
Like,
would
and
say
not a category
looking
of
at
rock.
his the way he does it, I think he does define his 25 best hair
Yeah,
metal
hair metal.
bands, which I guess is like yet another subgenre of it. So
Yeah,
like he's got
absolutely.
Guns N' Roses and he's got so I guess that's a little bit lighter, if you will. just destroyed this metaphor a little bit. It's like so I don't know. I think
Yeah, looking through this list, these are definitely hair metal bands, but I mean, some of them, I mean, I don't know. I've seen some of these bands.
I mean, I've got 87% more of the book to go through, so maybe this will develop a little bit more. But I think it's just that's pretty much my revelation of since last episode is that there's this whole expansive category of music called metal that previously I thought was just like people yelling into a microphone.
Wow, Cote. Wow.
that's a good question, actually. What is metal? I don't know. We're gonna have to ask like a music teacher or something. Like, okay, when do you decide?
We need Professor Rock Professor.
I don't know. I think it'd be a good. I maybe ask my son. I may send that question to school with my son. Like, hey, ask your music teacher what metal is. Just because it'd just be like, he'd be a dude. He'd be like,
My kids have no concept. Yeah. Of like what is hard rock, what is metal, what is.
I hope you said that. Yes, Huey Lewis is totally hip hop.
Well, go ahead, Matt.
You remember that Simpsons when Homer's like rocking out to Billy Joel Uptown Girl? That's my kids.
No, Kote, I listened to almost all the way through the interview with our man. What's this guy? What's the guy's name that he did with?
Tyler Cohen.
Yeah, and it was excellent as you recommended. But I thought that whole, I mean, I don't know, man. I think you brought it up, but like the way they were talking about like the fact that like there kind of are no genres now, like everything is the same, like things don't change as fast. I was like, wow, I think that's like really onto something. I don't know if that part stuck with me.
That part.
But I was like, oh wow, it's like, yeah, you don't like the aughts don't feel as defined as like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And his whole point about like if you took a movie clip from 65 and a movie clip from 85, like everyone would pick it out. But if you took a movie clip from like 2005 or 2002 in 2022, like it wouldn't be so different. And I was like, oh, that was I don't know. I was still thinking on that. It was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. It's always an intriguing idea. I think, like you're saying, we need to run the analysis.
That's right.
Get the people get some.
Well, while everyone's running the analysis on that, they should also look at Strong DM. That way, they could be secure and logged into their data stores in a real nice, secure way. So check out Strong DM. Of course, tell them your friends at Software Defined Talk send you. All right.
You should use that for the ad read.
While you're thinking about metal, go buy some stuff.
All right, we can do it. We can do it. All right, man. Whenever
secure your shit, Strong DM. Click. All right, that sounds good. What? Well, totally unrelated to glam or hair metal. I didn't watch the State of Union address. I listened to this show called Election Profit Makers, and one of the co-hosts is the guy you'll remember. Well, both of you probably remember this, but maybe you'll remember better, Matt Ray. What was the name of the guy who did the cartoons for the Gulf War? And it was like the two office workers with like old clip art always hanging out with each other.
Yeah,
get your war on. Yeah. So one of the hosts is the Get Your War On guy, and he was like, "Let me do my impersonation of every State of the Union address ever," and it was basically like working class is the backbone of the society. So I'm going to introduce the working income child tax credit tax rebate for mortgage homes. Yeah. And then he's like, and then half of them stand up and the other half have their arms crossed. And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good for a State of the Union address.
Yeah.
But now, so did this come up? Is this because it looks like our friend Biden was basically like, let's get the cryptocurrency going over here, Is that like it
I think
sounds like?
he saved that for post State of the Union.
No, it did not come up in. I mean, I did watch most of the State of the Union, but I can confirm. I'm pretty sure it did not come up.
So I didn't go read the. I feel like I can say the Fed, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of a news program, so I can say something like that.
Yep.
I don't know if it was like Minneapolis or Dallas or St. Louis, but one of the Feds came out with I think the pros and cons of having what do they call it?
A U.S. central
DC.
bank digital currency. That's the
Right.
CBDC.
Not to be confused with crypto. Right.
Yes,
Right,
nor with CBD oil or
Yes,
whatever
not
is.
that, not any
or
of that.
CBGB, which that might have been metal.
That's
there.
gone.
Are the Ramones metal?
No, the Ramones
No?
are one of the godfathers of punk.
Okay, so this is good. Punk and metal. See that?
That-
I hope
that's-
I
yeah.
hope that comes up because that
Okay,
will help. me out.
that's where I'm coming from at metal because a lot of punk was a reaction to metal. But anyhow,
Now, all I know, and he covers this twice, is that the death of metal was when Kurt Cobain wore a dress on Headbangers Ball. that was it. So okay, we know that timeline. So, but back to the CBDC, the digital currency. Now, I did read some ideas on this, some of the articles, and as always, Brandon, you can come in and fill in the details of my scatterbrainedness here. But like, it sounds like exactly what it says is that we are going to have an alternative to dollars, even dollars in the sense of like it's just numbers in a spreadsheet in my checking
dollars
account.
are numbers in a spreadsheet.
Right. I think
That's
it
what I'm
starts,
saying. But it seems like there's an additional thing that is like now we also have this other parallel currency that is also supposed to be the same, but like you couldn't ever withdraw it from an ATM machine, right? Like it exists on its own, and it's almost like they got really close. Like in Shadowrun you had cred sticks. And so I feel like it's really close to cred sticks, where it's a totally,
or as we call them, debit cards, prepaid debit cards.
like a totally anonymous thing. Now, just as a final thing, I just realized. Now I love talking about the garbage culture over here, the waste system. Now we have these little cards that you scan, and it opens and closes the garbage for you, 50 cents euro per load. And what you can do is you can go recharge that card down the street, and I assume that's putting some CBDCs on there because if someone else got that card, they could use it, right? So
Right.
it's a good analogy. Your trash card is pretty much the same thing. It doesn't track who I am, right? Like it does. Well, I mean, it could potentially. You could encode this stuff.
well, there's a record, right? Definitely. Mhm.
Right. I mean, it could keep track of all the GWIDs of the coins that it gave me or whatever, but like, I don't know. Is it really doing that? Now, the only thing that I've been wondering is I don't know if this would be Edge or a mesh network, or maybe both. But I'm also not sure if
Gonna
there's
need a service mesh.
it could also be the case that there's an Edge mesh with all the trash cans connected together, and it's actually running through probably like a Snowflake database each time I throw something away.
Yes.
But I'm not sure.
Perfect.
So, what's
Well,
the deal?
anyway, I was going to say, barring all that, we'll have to go back to the trash in a second here. But I was going to say, like, the thing that I thought was interesting about the digital currency here was like, I think we can kind of apply like some digital transformation, like, thinking around it, right? So it's like, okay, why? So it's like, all the meetings we have, like, why are we doing this? And so I think the first answer to that question is like, hey, there's a lot of people or institutions involved with getting a dollar from the Fed into circulation and then to people, right? And then of course, when I want to pay Cote or anyone else, even if I'm using, at least here in the United States, Venmo, I write you a check or any other way, right? It involves a lot of middlemen, right? And that's the point that I think is kind of interesting. So the digital transformation here is like, hey, let's get rid of all the middlemen, right? The Fed, when it wants to, can essentially just issue dollars. So here in the United States, there was like stimulus payments or tax payments, like the Fed could just give you the money directly. It's like, if you want to think about it, it's all just running on one centralized system. There's nothing in between. There's no fees. There's no MasterCard. There's no Visa. There's no ACH.
One spreadsheet.
And then if I was to pay Cote, to your point, like it is one ledger, one spreadsheet. And then if I was just to pay you, say I owed you whatever, $20, I would just hit it. And again, it would just go through one ledger. It wouldn't have to. And so what that eliminates is like all the people behind the scenes taking a small fraction. Yeah. And that's the point. Like, even when we see the $20 and even if you get the full $20, like there are a bunch of fees built into the system, right? And so the thing so I thought that was interesting. It's sort of like, what do we always talk about? Like, improve productivity and then, and making things more agile. So clearly this would be a chance to improve productivity. Now, there's lots of issues, right? Around, like, to your point about privacy is the first question. It's like, yes, people would be able to see, the government would have a window into what you're spending on. So good.
Now that said, I mean, couldn't, like, I mean, it would be technologically possible to, like, make it untraceable, right? Like to not really know where things are. Like, I don't know, can't you use PGP or something and, like, encrypt things?
I think it could be done, but I think the way this is being set up is it wouldn't be. It would be more along the lines of, like, I want just more like a Venmo, like, I know who you are, I'm going to pay you, and then vice versa. And the whole idea behind that is that, like, hey, this could be a lot easier. And then, of course, stuff that's probably a little less interesting, at least to this audience and maybe to all of us, is that, I guess it's a very complicated process that the Fed uses to get, like, currency, right? Like, into the system, right? Where it's basically like they have to issue it through banks, and then banks have to, it's like there's a whole complicated thing. Like, you can give a bank debt, and then the bank basically takes that and loans it out. And it's like this complicated way to get currency in there. So this is a much simpler way to do that.
I think the economics term is a bunch of bullshit.
Right. Well, this is where they talk about, like, quantitative. I don't want to pretend I know all of this, but, like, quantitative easing and, increasing the money supply, all that. So anyway, this is another way around that, right? It's just sort of like, hey, the Fed can just say, here's the money to large institutions, and that gets it into the world. So I think that part is pretty good. And I also think it would be the other part I think we got to, like, at least hit on is, like, you mentioned it before, but crypto, right? It's like, I think it would be the funniest unintended consequence of crypto is it sort of spurned, in this case, the United States government to actually issue a digital currency that would be widely used. That would probably be a lot easier to use. Because, again, like, you could make mistakes, right? You could call someone and be like, oh, I paid someone wrong, and they could roll back, so it doesn't have the anonymous side to it, but, like, you could use it and feel like, just like with Venmo or anything else, you could be like, oh, wait a minute, I messed up, right? Like, and they can reverse transactions.
And even the crypto stuff isn't as anonymous as they want. And whenever things get bad enough, the government steps in and undoes the crypto stuff.
Right. And so
they apprehend the perpetrators or whatever. But this would just be like, oh yeah, now instead of, waiting around 2 days for, money to clear, it just happens.
Well, this is the whole, and this, I agree. And this is the final thing. It's like, we've complained on this podcast many times, at least for the US, it's like this crazy ACH system and writing a check, and it takes 3 days. And it's like, well, this is, it's, I don't know, not really strangler pattern, but it's just sort of like, hey, let's introduce another system, another way that's more efficient, and that will slowly kill off, like, ACH. Like, I paid someone was doing some work at the house today. I wrote him a check, right? And it's like crazy. And it's like, oh, it would be so much easier if we just, like, and I know the Europeans already do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's funny to say it, but it's like, well, maybe this is the only way the United States can get there, because clearly the ACH system is never being upgraded. It's never going to happen.
I mean, I paid my Australian accountant. He's like, oh, here's my bank number. And I was like, done. And he got it. And it was just like, none of this waiting for a physical check or anything like that.
But this is I think, to me, this is the closest I've seen, is like, this could be the way finally, right? Just like, this is it. We could actually have it in the United States. And then, but of course, there's got to be like a million, because I guess what they really announced here is just, it's the government at work. They announced, like, a committee to study it. So it's like, could be a long time for anything happens.
And in an article, someone was like, best case scenario, this takes a decade.
Right.
Which I mean, that makes sense. I think if you are like messing around with your currency system, take 50 years. That's fine. Like, figure it out. No problem. Like, it's we got time. It's fine.
Well, the other thing I think you highlighted is, this takes a little bit to get your head around it, is it's the possibility of negative interest rates, which is like, oh yeah, like, once the government sort of just sees the money, they can say, they can obviously give you a little bit of interest if it's going up. But if they decide that, oh, it's actually negative, they can slowly take a little money out, which is like, I predict, like, one day if this actually gets to a proposal, this will be, if people are against it, this will be the point. They're like, listen, they can just take your money, like, right out of your account. Like, it's a negative interest rate, because it is sort of like weird. Like, even if the dollar in your pocket is going down in value. The fact that like it's still just $1 and it sits there, like it's just, I don't know. It's going to be hard for people to get their head around that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
I
in your
think I
pocket.
think I think I think if you have if you have inflation and then already and then they do a negative rate on you, so they take money away basically. It's just like, you don't have to rub it in. Like it's like we get it, right? Like we all know the effects. Like don't make it worse. And I mean, so that, I mean, yeah, I mean, unless as I was joking in our notes here, like the initial thought leadership on this is going horrible. If there's a notion that you could have negative rates,
Yeah, you definitely didn't want to lead with that. That was one of the
that's
things
like,
that probably should not be in
yeah,
the
I mean
key article.
that's gonna add 5 to 20 years on the timeline, right? Like you basically are gonna have to wait for people who heard that to die,
Well,
and before you can do anything, and which they I think a couple years ago, I mean, I don't know if we have negative interest rates here, but like we pay for banking, and I know I raise this a lot. Like it is like a baffling thing, coming from America, where people just will like pay you to sign up with their bank and give you like 20 or $50 or something. But like, yeah, I mean, the notion of paying for banking, it always seems really stupid. It's like, so I give you some money and I give you more money to have my money, and I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
But that's another thing that's kind of interesting about this too, is that, mostly here in the United States, Visa, MasterCard is by far the most popular. And it's like something like this would put pressure on all the existing payment systems, right? To essentially, either reduce rates or make it even simpler or easier, right? So I think that's another. So to me, it's like between crypto, let's call it the credit cards in general, the Venmos and all that. And then if you had this, like you'd have like some really interesting competition going between
I
different
think
ways of doing it.
And because this is the U.S., you just explained why it's not going to happen. Those companies will just, lobby against it and, put their weight, on all the different congressmen who will, load it up with all sorts of junk. And then it'll be like, well, we tried to fix banking, but, they said you had to wear a mask.
It's true. This is probably true. And then we'll have to, we'll just be writing checks. Like even my son, even our children here in the United States continue to write checks. But it's probably true, but I don't know. I'm like, it seemed, I don't know, hopeful. I guess but in that case, in that respect, it's like every other digital transformation project that I don't really work on, but I talk to clients, right? Because that's a lot of what they say. It's like, Brandon or Matt or whoever, they say like, you brought up a lot of good ideas today, but we're not going to be able to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not a DevOps oriented. You don't understand. We're different. We can't do this. And you're this probably not.
As a side note to this is exciting. Maybe by next episode, I'll be able to report back on this if I even remember saying it. But I'm going up to London for a little, one of these executive council things, and I'm structuring my little talk to kind of stop midway through, and basically have people talk about just what you did, Brandon. And be like, so, like, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, and it's impossible to do. So let's talk about that. Hopefully that'll be fun.
Wow, that sounds like that actually sounds like a very interesting setting. Yeah. I'm interested to hear how that goes.
I think the people they're hosting it. It's a Gartner event. It'll be fun, a little tiny one. But they gave me a great idea when we were going through the slides. This is actually, if I can compliment them, I hate going through slides ahead of time because I'm a fancy lad or whatever. But like this was like one of the best going through slides ahead of times ever. They really had a lot of it was nice. They had some good ideas, and one of them was like, okay, at the end there, what you should do is basically have a slide or whatever just in your talk track and be like, how does that sound to you all? And then let them talk it out, right? And then put your slide up that's common problems. Because usually what I do is I put the common problem slide up to kind of prompt people to talk. But they're like, no, you should put a pause in there. And then, reveal afterwards. And so we'll see how that tactic works. Now, I want to get back on the digital currency thing, maybe close it out a little bit here. I think we should do an exercise here. As I said, their initial thought leadership, very poor. But, you got to learn and adapt. See what works. You do some product thought. You got to do some market thought leadership match. Make sure it works up. And I want to go through probably, I'm going to say not best as in it is the best, but best as in works most of the time. It's one of those. How does it go? 70% of the times it works 100% of the times, and that is when considering an idea like this. As we know with all digital transformation, if you think it's not a good idea, it means that you're being too myopic, and you need to look at the entire end-to-end process. That's how you make a business case. And I think, we've already brought all these things up, and I just want to go to the whiteboard here and kind of like write this down, right? So it's one thing if you're like, I've got the cash, right? And they're going to take the cash away, right? But what you really want to come to that whiteboard with is like, all right, let's write up. Don't just focus on your one silo of your bank account, and if it goes up and down. Let's talk about those fees that credit cards have. And that's something that you're paying for. Now let's talk about, and this is where you really close the deal, right? You're like, now, let's talk about the time you have to wait to transfer money, and also the time it takes you to figure out transferring money. Now, I have gone and pulled the regional average salaries for someone with your title. So now let's divide that up, and we can put a dollar amount on the time that you're waiting and it takes you to transfer money. And what we see is that actually you have an extremely high negative interest rate. And then once we load inflation in there, at the moment, this is a worse solution than the one that I have proposed. So can you introduce me to your procurement officer? And I think maybe if we do the whole end-to-end thing on this digital currency thing, I think we can really sell this thing here, and it'll work out just fine.
I like it. I'm in. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. I want to get in and run this project. All right, everyone. When you finish listening to this podcast, and who knows, maybe in the future you'll hear Matt Ray doing this ad. Everyone should go listen to our friends at Postlight.
Man.
And you know what they'll be talking? I bet they're going to talk about digital currency. That seems like something they'll talk about. They'll probably have even more informed ideas about how to do it. So go listen to Paul.
I would love to hear some Paul Ford talk on that. That would be some great.
Yeah. The other thing we got to add, we didn't, you were wrapping up there, so I didn't want to interrupt. But the other thing is like the other group of people, right? Our biggest case is like the unbanked. Total addressable market. There's a whole bunch of people that don't have bank accounts. Boom.
Yeah.
Now we're bringing them into the system. That would be the other talking point to get people excited.
I love some unbanked thinking. Okay, this is a long-term goal for us. I'm going to say 5-year plan, Horizon 3. Is I think we need to be a big enough podcast that we can hire Paul Ford to be our Andy Rooney. Like we're going to give him like 5 minutes at the end of every episode, and he can just come in and just Paul Ford it.
Oh, you want to go on? You want to go on the show? We can probably get you on there. Or I don't know. One of us can get on there. So.
No. He's got to be on our show.
You think so? Bring it on
to be Andy Rooney, right? Like,
okay.
Maybe that's what we should propose. Is we should be like, I know you love having ads here. We can read the ads, but let me throw this at you.
All right, we can get him on. I think we can do it.
You get a 5-minute slot at the end of the show, and all that you can talk about Postlight, but you really got to hit that Andy Rooney vibe. You got to come in. You talk about toilet paper. You can talk about Kurt Cobain. You can talk about like how many pins you have on your desk. We don't care.
Maybe we should go after Klosterman. He's on the book tour. He probably doesn't even read the name of the podcast he goes on at this point. He's just like, yeah, I'm on. I'm just like you could just say like we could just say anything. We're like, yeah, we're on software. We're like it's a literary show about software. Come on, you'll really enjoy it.
It's a literary show about software.
It's like we have one of the hosts is 2 credits short of an English degree, so it's going to be great.
One credit.
One credit short of an English degree. So
wait, if we're gonna play that game. I'm like 4 or 5 semesters short of an English degree. So that's
good. That's good.
I chose a geology degree over a hydrogeology degree. I could have had either, but no. Yeah, hydrogeology is even worse.
It feels like you didn't get good college counseling. That's every time you go over your
great time in college. What's your point?
True. You had a good time. That you know what? Take it back. It's about the experience, not about the and a lot about rocks. So that's probably helpful.
Yeah.
So
I know why my house didn't flood.
All right, perfect. Like it. All right. We're done. So that's it. We're done with the ads, and so whatever you want to do, go ahead.
Well, some of the news was about our old friends Snowflake. It looks like now, I as topic 2 here, I'm going to do a little spoiler. I don't really know much about Snowflake, but I read some analysis of why their valuation went down, and it looks like because they optimized the way things run because of, I don't know, faster chips, or someone like found some sort of for loop to optimize or something. I'm sure they did something.
Fast unroll.
And because it was a more optimized way of doing things, less money was being spent. And I guess what's the dude that Luke Knies introduced everyone back to from the industrial age, that was like, every time you make something efficient, it just makes you consume more. I used to know this guy's name. It's blah blah blah's law, right? And it was. and oh man, what is this? I'm gonna have to.
Now you got me thinking. Yeah,
maybe someone can find this. It's I feel like it's an odd sort of name, and it makes sense. That's the point of productivity, is not so that you can have a 30 or 20 hour work week. The point of productivity is that if you do even more work, then you'll have even more output. Is my understanding. That's what I try to counsel people in this digital transformation. Is you're like, the management is getting really excited about productivity. What I hear is that I get jack shit. Like if I do my job more efficiently and I get it done sooner, you're just going to give me more work to do and I get no benefit. So why do I give a fuck? Right? But
you get to do better work. Come on, Coach. That's how this works.
All right, but let's dive in on the Snowflake thing, because I think the part that I think is interesting here is a lot of this is driven by the choice of the way they license it. And I think that's really interesting here. So I went through the investor deck, and one of the slides on this says is they're really clear that like Snowflake is not a SaaS service. And I was like, what are you talking about? So it took me a second, or not a SaaS rather. So it took me a second to understand it. So what that means in that context means they are not charging a fixed monthly fee to based on users or based on something to use the software. They are 100% consumption based around these credits. So you buy credits. And then based on, and this is where the improvements come in, based on how much time it takes you to like run your queries, right? Your credits are burned down. So if it's faster to run the queries, they're not going to burn down as much credit. So therefore they're not going to make as much money.
It would be like if the trash bins suddenly had, I could put 2 bags in the trash bin.
Exactly.
Instead of 1 bin.
Right. And you're still paying 50 cents or 50 euro, whatever cents in euros is there. So that part is interesting. But like I think so of course they come out and the stock market is not happy with that, right? They basically they're down. And the reason
it's on to the customer.
Yeah. And that was interesting because they kept saying that like, hey, this is a huge advantage. And that, to your point, Cote, that they'll make it up in volume. It is literally the gnome thing, right? It's like, we will make it up in volume because it's cheaper. People will do more. But in the short term, that's loss of 100 million right off the top line revenue. So I was like, interesting. And so I don't know. I mean, I was like, and I think this is just, if we talk about Snowflake's valuation. So I think we famously, or at least I was famously like, it's kind of bearish on it, right? So it opened at I think 197 was the initial, or it opened over $200. Then it ran all the way up to $450 per share. That was when the call looked really bad. But now it's actually back below the IPO price. So as we've been talking about, valuation is just a number times the story. And it's like, so it's been really interesting over the last year here. Like clearly people have gone from Snowflake's the greatest thing. Everyone's putting all their data in it. And, the sky's the limit to, wait a minute, Snowflake's under some competitive pressure from Google BigQuery and Amazon. And they're doing this pricing thing that is reducing their top line revenue. And that it may, to your point, Cote, end up having more workloads in there, but that's sort of unknown, right? Until they can start to prove that your thing about like, we made it cheaper, therefore people use it more. I think the stock market is very bearish on it. They're basically saying, we don't really believe you, at least today. And so we'll see if next quarter, a couple quarters out, whether or not they actually see the uptake to make up for the lost revenue.
Yeah, I'm sure the investors are like, I don't know, if you lower prices at a place, does that really work? I mean, I've heard about this Walmart and Amazon, but they're basically bankrupt, right? That's what they do. But yeah, I mean, you do. It's to the thing you and I, Brandon, always talk about is stuff is priced in, and you've got these models, and if you fail to meet the models, you're fucked, which is just delightful.
But I do think the one part there, I think that is interesting is like how much, because the reason, I think another reason to be bearish is like they're going to be that it's just basically saying this is Amazon, Google's game, right? They already are doing this. and BigQuery, and I forget the name of the Amazon one. I just forgot of it, but I'm sure, their equivalents are getting good, and they're already baked into the cloud platforms. And so therefore it's like, well, I mean, as Amazon's going to continuously lower prices to make it faster, because that's what they do, is Snowflake going to be able to, essentially carve out a niche and maintain its premium feature set that people come to it for? And I think this is like the larger discussion we've been having around, is Amazon in this case like friend or foe, right? It's like, is it better for Amazon just to just run Snowflake's infrastructure and make money off that, or compete with Snowflake? And I think that'll be an ongoing discussion for the next several years.
Yeah, it's almost like Amazon is the Kirkland brand, the in-store generic brand for things, and
yeah,
absolutely.
Which maybe they'll get to the point where I think Kirkland does this. They actually have brand names that are sitting on the shelf right next to them, just relabeled as Kirkland, just to kind of mess around with stuff, which I guess is fine if you make money. Now, this also I wanted to ask another question related to this. When I was reading this, I realized that I don't really even know what Snowflake is. I mean, I get it, data warehouse. I understand,
Data lake.
You gotta, you want to just like dump all your stuff in there and like figure out how sales in Lithuania are doing today, right? Or this past hour or whatever. Totally cool. But like what I don't quite know is like why, like what the differentiation is and why it's such a big deal. Like, but clearly it is. But I don't really. I mean, do we have any knowledge of like what is going on there as far as the technology?
Well, I think it's definitely a loaded question. Probably not in the deep sense, but the ultimate thing is I think it's like all of this database stuff is kind of moving from what data marts to and they kind of, I think a lot of times call it lakehouse now, right? So it's basically, hey, put all of your data in one place, right? All your like structured and unstructured data in one place, in this case being Snowflake, and then from there you can essentially run all of the potential queries you want off of it, right? So I don't know if the value proposition is not necessarily revolutionary. What is, I think, attracts people to it is the fact that it sort of takes, if you will, data from anything. And it's like, it's kind of like the managers of managers argument. It's like everyone wants to be the single source of truth, or like have all the data. And Snowflake right now seems to be making that case that like, this is the place that you can, Mr. Large corporation, you put everything in here and then you can do almost an infinite kind of analysis. So that's kind of the value proposition.
And their advantage over like AWS Redshift is, they're focused on this. They're not a two pizza team. They're sometimes well compensated company that this is all they do, and they've got great APIs, developer tools, user tools, dashboards, reporting. Everything is hyper focused on giving the best experience as possible. And AWS is the Kirkland.
So you're saying, I mean, they're not a two pizza team; they're like a chef's tasting menu team. Is more what's going on.
They're a real company that.
Now it seemed like also in my very shallow reading, the other thing that would be different about them is that they run purely in one of the three clouds, and it sounds like they had partnership agreements, so you don't have to like go install the stuff. You could just like, I don't know, go into their marketplace or whatever.
Yeah, and they do. They even talked about they're on the hook to pay, especially AWS, quite a bit of, kind of like Netflix, right? It's like they're going to pay them a lot of hosting behind the scenes. So that's back to like the frenemy stance.
Right, and then also similar to how Apple pays Google, or Google pays Apple to be like the default search on phones or something, right? There's just like, is that similar? Anyways.
Well, no, but I think that's the opposite side. Like Google could build its own search engine, right? But they've chosen like, we don't want to do that. Just pay us a big fee, right? And I think, that's sort of today Amazon's competing, but at some point in the future, they could say, really, why don't you just, pay us the fee through consumption, right? And, we're not going to compete with you. So, because you got to think about the AWS rep who's, selling the Snowflake, right? So he wants them to keep using and, doing these huge deals. At the same time, there's another team in Amazon that's basically competing with them. So that must make for like, maybe not awkward, but like a little strange, account calls. It's just like, hey, maybe don't compete with us as much and we'll bring you more workloads, right? I'm sure that conversation happens all the time.
Well, maybe we can, this is a good time to mention that we live stream these recordings, and it's been helpful. Someone, like we get information about it's Jevons paradox we were trying to think about, and you can join us when we do this, and also it would be great maybe next time, or maybe in our Slack channel, which you can also go to at softwaredefinedtalk.com and find Slack. Someone could tell us or point us to what the deal with Snowflake is, because I think I think from an executive buying it situation, I think we probably nailed the pitch deck, right? And now I'm interested. I'm cool. I've seen some nice numbers. Love your slides. Now I'm going to pass you down to my staff, and they're going to have some questions too. Now let's go to that tasting menu and go
right. And I think
I want to know. I want to know what the staff is. What's the SE presentation?
Well, I was going to say we do have one listener has done some homework. So Amp It Up is a book written by their CEO, Frank. I don't know, I'm not trying to say his last name, Slootman. So he has written this book, and he was formerly the CEO of ServiceNow, and he's making the podcast tour. So I've heard a little bit of interviews with him. So if you really want a little bit more take on Snowflake or really his management structure, you can check out. I think Brian originally recommended Amp It Up. I haven't read it. I don't know anything, but the reason I think is interesting, because of course I see these books and the halo effect siren goes off, like, whoa, hold on here, let me see how it goes. So the fact that the company's sort of in this turmoil here, I think is a real interesting. You can kind of we can kind of watch him, apply his Amp It Up philosophy from his book to the situation. And so does it, because I think the point that they were making on the investor call was no, this is definitely the right strategy. We're going to make it up in consumption. This is we have the right people, the right team. We're great. So this is a good case study of does it work, or does it in a year or two? Are we wow, man, that 405 was the biggest that stock ever got. So I'm interested to watch that.
I think we found the first legit use for private equity. Taking a company private, and that is when you think the financial analysts aren't going to be able to figure out how to put Jevons paradox in their Excel macros. So you gotta go private for a year or two, however long it takes, and then come back out once Jevons paradox.
They're works. The spreadsheet doesn't go ahead more than 3/4.
But to your point, this is what I really like about watching. We're going to watch Frank and Amp It Up apply, because it's they chose this licensing model. This licensing model introduces Jevons paradox, right? And we're going to see, did that make sense? There are other ways they could have licensed this. There are other ways they could have managed this business that would not have Jevons paradox. So I'm just I just think it's going to be fun to watch. And if it works out great, I think someone he can write Amp It Up too. It'll be great. And if it doesn't work, I think when he goes on the podcast interview tour, someone can ask him and say, well, you did all of this, and you hired the right people, and you brought in the team, and you executed with violent whatever, listen to all the stuff he says, and it didn't work. What happened? So I think I'm interested in either conversation. I want to hear in 2 years.
Amp it down.
That would be great. Just turn it down, I think, is the but yeah, we'll have to check that out. That sounds good. I love any book that has the phrase hypergrowth in it in the title. That's good. I met that guy when he had just become the CEO of ServiceNow. We were on, I forget the name of it, but there's one of those island resorts over there in San Diego, and I went to the ServiceNow conference. I think I must have been at Red Monk.
Well, how'd it go? Were you impressed, or any memory of it, or is it just another?
He had just started a week before, and also I was terrible at executive meetings, because back then I was just what am I going to ask this guy? And I think they were all guys at the time. What am I going to ask this guy that they're going to tell me or anything right. I think the only is this true?
Now you have it. Next time, just ask about Jevons paradox. Now that we know what the name is, and you can be hey, so why'd you do this?
The only fun meeting was, of course. I think we are going to have to consider at some point in the top 5 fun CEOs. The only fun meeting was with Beecham at BMC. He's always a delight to talk with. He was that was I enjoyed that meeting. That was good stuff. Well, speaking about meetings, thankfully we don't have that many meetings around Software Defined Talk, but we do always have some bureaucracy to go over. And Brandon, do we have some?
We do. I sent stickers to Chad in Minnesota. He can confirm it's cold. I was yeah, it sounds cold. Also, I got a nice note from Kyle, who lives in Austin, but wait for it, Austin, Arkansas. Did you know there's an Austin, Arkansas? Did not know that. And he's really been enjoying the show, helps him on his commute. So that's I'm glad he's listening. And if you want a sticker, all you have to do is email your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. Happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. A couple other follow-ups. Christopher tells us Mime Stream, which I recommended. A few other people said they liked it. But he says, not the first time I'm tried to implement this Gmail native app. I guess there's some issues with the Gmail API, so they can't always do everything. So I don't know. Everyone should just, open some requests to the Gmail API team. Like add all the functionality. Someone get it done over there at
Can
Gmail.
you guys get some mail gun action?
Yeah, come on, get it done. Like fix it. Like, you guys have plenty of time, right? Just make the Gmail API do everything. The other thing is a couple other people in Slack. I think it's Ryan and I think it's Parash. I don't know if I'm saying his right. They both have recommended Severance, the TV show from Apple TV. And Ryan even goes so far to say it's like Apple TV Plus becoming part of the default lifestyle. Like, hey, you got it. Might as well watch the show. So I'm all in on Severance. I love it. I will say we're entering lost territory here. It's a very strong start. So that's always great, but a little concerning, right? Like, did the writers just write 3 episodes and then they surprised they sold it, or did they write the full 10? Like, do they know where they're going? So if you want to wait, I think there's about 5 or 7 more episodes. So I'll give you the all clear at the end. Like, should you watch to the end? I'm too far in, I probably should have waited, but I really like it. So I'm watching it. And then finally, I think it's Borko wants you to work in DevRel at Render. So if you want to learn more about that job, just go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, get in the Slack, and you can go in there and talk to Borko about all the good things they're doing at Render. I think they're doing some type of platform as a service. So probably a lot of you would be interested. And then finally, Cote says he's going to go do some meetups, but we're actually looking to put together some meetups. So if you want to be invited to some type of virtual meetup or maybe some in-person meetup, all you got to do right now is just go to the show notes and click on the link there that says register to be invited to future Software Defined Talk meetups. Be happy to add you to the list as we kind of figure out what we're doing later this year. We'll send out some emails. So that's it.
Well, there's some conferences I want to highlight. There's the .NET Beyond conference put together by one of my coworkers, Layla. I just talked with her this morning. She's always fun to talk with. That's going to be at the end of this month, March 30th to 31st. It's all online for free. I think it's even going to be in Twitch. I should find out because I think I'm emceeing some of it. But you should check that out, the .NET Beyond conference. And then that conference still occurring May 23rd to 26th. And there's one in Wisconsin. That one's over there in Texas. There's DevOps Days Birmingham, Alabama. And the Austin one is May 4th to 5th. Also, DevOps Days Chicago is in May. A lot of stuff going on in May. Big month. And then, of course, as a conference. And finally, in December, there's the Spring One platform, or maybe it's just Spring platform. I forget what we call it, but the conference that my little neck of the woods puts on. And I tried to find the link to it, but I know that this is occurring because I'm going to it. But we have one of our spring tour events in Chicago on April 26th and 27th, and we got a whole new slate of talks. I'm going to be speaking there a little bit. But you should, I don't know. I'll have to find the link to it. But maybe if you search around for Spring Tour VMware Chicago, you can register for it and come check that out. I should ask where the landing page is. It's probably a good idea. So with that, Brandon, what do you have to recommend this week?
I'm going to recommend the movie The Last Duel. It's been out for a long time, but I just finally saw it the other day. It's the one with Matt Damon and a few other famous people. It's good. I like the way they told the story, kind of get different perspectives of it. I don't know, kind of better than I thought, right? It's probably something good to watch at home. I didn't feel like missing out on not seeing it in the theater. So if you're looking for something to watch, check out The Last Duel.
How about yourself, Matt Ray? What do you have to recommend?
Well, my recommendation is Reincubate Camo, which allows you to take your old iPhone or Android phone and turn it into a webcam. I've done this before. I used the iRune one with my old Pixel. It didn't work as well, and so I never really switched to that. But now that I joined the defaults lifestyle and got an iPhone a month ago or 6 weeks ago or whatever, my Android phone, my Sony up here, is now my webcam, and I didn't even bring it up before when we started the podcast, when we started the stream, I got compliments from you two. So
Yes,
you
very
noticed.
good. Very good.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks really good.
Very fresh. Now, did I recommend the French Dispatch movie already?
No, is it good?
I recommend that movie. It's good. I think you got to be careful because you're gonna watch it and all of a sudden you're gonna find yourself drinking a lot. It's one of those movies. But it's one of my kids just ran off somewhere. But it's I think it's a fine movie. It does well. It of course has Bill Murray in it. You could always have more Bill Murray, but I think he does fine. And it's got some character. Now, my other recommendation, it's kind of a general, it's not a specific thing, but like I was thinking about the this old gag joke, which was like, you go to someone's desk and they have this little grenade on it. Not a real grenade, actually. and written on whatever's holding the grenade is, they call it like complaints department, take a number. And like the pin of the grenade has the number, that you would take that. And presumably it is to tell people that like you don't want them to complain and they should go blow themselves up. But I realized, I think it was this past weekend, that the problem is, even if you hang that on the wall, like next to your desk, but especially if it's on your desk, what's going to happen is they're going to pull this pin of a number, and then, of course, what do you do when you're waiting? You go sit down in the waiting room, and then the grenade is going to blow you up. So I think someone didn't really think this through, maybe at Spencer's Gifts HQ in like 1982 when they came up with this. But I think it's an interesting little thing. Go look that up and ponder. This would be one of those interview questions, like if you were interviewing at Google, they would just show you this and be like, what is the design flaw in this system? And,
you're like, it won't fit in a manhole.
Exactly. Well, that's pretty good right there. Well, as always, when you're looking for something that will fit into a manhole, you can always go to softwaredefinedtalk.com and find the show notes for this episode. I'm cracking myself up here. You're not supposed to laugh at your own jokes. But you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/348 and find links to the conferences we mentioned, recommendations, and all sorts of new items we didn't say. And you can check the back catalog. It'll be enjoyable. And with that, we'll see everyone next time.
Bye.
Wow. Got to changing it up a little bit on that. So
Jesus.
Can we read your private chat out loud? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what does this mean.
Okay.
We'll read it to everyone first.
Well, yeah. I don't know how.
Your daughter's.
My daughter's rapid antigen test came back.
Oh, I thought it was like a rat, like she got bit by a rat. I misread it.
No,
okay. All right. Anyway.
No.
Okay.
Or maybe this was back to metal and it's that band Rat.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rat.
Two T's.
Rat with two T's would definitely be metal. I don't know what it is. You should just send that as the answer.
Are they metal? Are they hair metal? I don't know.
No, that's metal. Rat is just metal.
Rat,
anyway.
round and round? That's metal?
Rat with two T's is all metal. So, all right. So, but anyway, you're saying your daughter's is negative. Your daughter, no, she's positive. I don't know what's going on. Is it bad or good or what?
That's bad.
That's bad. All right.
They dropped the mask mandate like 3 weeks ago or whatever, and so obviously last week, the last 2 weeks, everyone in my family is taking turns getting sick. COVID tests kept coming back negative, and then Friday, my son's school canceled the next 3 days of classes because half the school was out with COVID.
Brutal.
You're right, and they're not the only school in Sydney. And then so my daughter was already home sick, but so Tuesday, she kept getting these negative rat tests, rapid, the home test. So she and I hopped in the car, went to the hospital, took the the brain swipe, and 20 hours later, I get my result back saying negative, and we still haven't got her results back. It's been like 70 hours, and
right.
And so now I'm like, well, she's feeling fine, and I was like, just take another rat test, and you go back to school today. Well, it came back positive. So
it's worth doing. You should. Are you going to do the other one too? What's the other one?
The PCR.
Yeah. PCR.
I
Yeah.
guess we'll go do another PCR test, but
You
she's
definitely should,
she's
because
mostly been isolated in her room.
yeah. Well, I
for the last
definitely we went through
3
this,
days,
and
but
it's definitely the PCR. Like,
well,
it's
we
a
got
lot.
a PCR test. The results never showed up.
Well,
You know, I
You
mean, my
should-
phone,
you should,
my phone has like, 20.
Well, you should. I
PCR
would
test
definitely
results
take
on it over
her.
the-
Get
Yeah,
like
we'll
I don't
go
know
get
if you
another
get
one.
it, like get a PCR. At least here, that's what
Yeah,
they tell you in
we'll
the
go
US.
I'll go get another PCR.
And then
test.
get a PCR to like make sure it's really gone too. That's the other thing that we've done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Well, I mean, what you got to do is just keep taking the test till it comes back negative. It sounds like the strategy.
it's. I mean, I'm
Or
sad.
until
I'm
you
sorry.
get your results. That's the thing
Yeah.
that pisses me off is we never got results. So
Yeah. Well, hope she quick recovery. It's definitely it's interesting to listen to because I feel like you're just like 6 weeks behind us. It's like I don't know, man. Like literally, it was crazy here. It was like everyone, and it was like I don't know what the rate was, but now it's like the cases are way down. Like we've kind of like almost back to like a safe
you're almost
area.
at Australia high peak numbers.
No, I think it's actually. I mean, it seems like it's actually gone way down, but not. But it's been a lot. But I mean, what we got here in a bad way. I'm not saying we got here in a good way, but anyway. So.
A million people can't be wrong.
Oh, all right. On that note, I have to run. So,
Well, I guess I'm driving another kid to school, but not the other one.
So, all right, you guys are on your own next week. Cote, I'll send you the ads. Have a great show. I'll be back the following week.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.